Yeah, with Sinestro, did you start with the actor, the comic? Or?
We started with the comic, and I believe it was before we even got the actor. At that point, when you're doing something that's already been established in a comic book, graphic novel, whatever, you have to remain somewhat true to that. Because Star Trek, it's like you can't veer too much off of, what people expect Spock, Romulans, Vulcans to look like.
Right. I was a huge Dark Shadows fan growing up as a kid, so when I heard the movie was being made, I got really excited. And did you go back to the old stuff and think, are we going to use some of this at all, or was it just like clean slate?
You know what? It was clean slate. Johnny and Tim had extensive conversations about what they wanted, and the biggest thing I think in the Barnabas makeup was they wanted these fingers to be extended. He wanted like long, he was very tactile. I'll peel the skin back off of these because these were actually used. So it's a vacuum tip that fits Johnny's finger, right? And that gets glued on. So now you've got an extension of his bone. The nail gets glued onto the top of that, and then the silicone skin slips over.
I love that there's just a bag of fingers.
The paintwork itself, I treated it like an oil painting. So it was very smooth and very elegant. And they were desaturating the film, so I'd have to base my makeup on what the final version of the film would look like. It reads as kind of white in the film, but it's not. It's anything but that. It's several layers of light makeup, no white at all, yellows and blues. And then there's 5 different versions of makeup around his eyes, going from black to purple to blue.
What's it like if you're working with an actor who they're just not happy with it at all, but it's the character, it's what's written in the script, and
Yeah, that's tough. That's always tough because, typically what'll happen is, say, Scott, you're going to be the fish man, and if you were not into this at all, he'd be like, I'm covered up with appliances? What are you talking about? I want everybody to see me.
Right.
And nobody has had this conversation with you before I show up with like this, right?
Yeah.
And at that point, it becomes very awkward because it's like, well, we gotta do this, and instantly, you're pulling back. Whereas, I'm a huge fan of makeup. I like to go further. I like to push the envelope. But
Johnny Depp seems like someone who's into this process.
One thing I really appreciate about him, it's if it's uncomfortable, the old Tonto was full body gluing, which was like 8 hours of application time, then a day of shooting, then like another couple hours of removal. That's a long day.
Do you find it to be the exception? Johnny Depp being obviously a major star, that he's so into the process?
Yeah, as into it as he is an exception. I worked with other performers that, do appreciate makeup, but I don't think anybody to the extent that he does. I love it. I've spent, 8 years of my life on pirate ships and pirate movies and stuff. With Johnny, it's like we'll come up with the design together, and pretty much everything we've sort of set out to achieve, we've been able to achieve. As long as it serves the purpose of the character.
Right.
There's nothing he'll shy away from if it serves the greater purpose.
Like Judge Dredd not taking his helmet off.
Yes, exactly.
How to get that in?
Where's Judge Death? I want to see Judge Death.
Yeah, Judge Death.
Right.
Dredd sequel. You as the artist, how would you respond to, people who would criticize Johnny Depp? People who would say, oh, he buries himself in makeup.
What's with the bird on the head?
I actually did say that the first time I saw a picture. I was like, he's wearing a bird on his head.
Yeah.
Makes sense in the movie.
I didn't say it in a negative way, like he's wearing a bird on his head. I just said
like
he's
everybody
wearing
else did.
a bird on his head. Did people give Lon Chaney shit back in, 70 years ago? Maybe they did.
Yeah, maybe.
With
social media,
on the pre-internet.
If you shy away from giving the audience what, ultimately your interpretation of a character is, just because you're afraid they're going to say, well, why were you wearing ears? Why were you wearing, a nose? Why were you wearing... It's like, let's appreciate the character for what it is. And the character isn't necessarily going to be all it can be without the addition of some kind of makeup, whether it's subtle or something extreme like what we're going to do on you.
Right.
So screw them.
Yeah.